So good evening, everybody. We're about to begin the class. I just want to give a little bit of an introduction, for what we are going to be doing in the coming months. Every single Monday night at 7:30, we're going to be doing our Mussar Mondays. And what we're going to do is learn about a trait. And first thing we need to do when we learn about a trait, about a midah, is we need to define what is that trait. Now we all have, in every trait that we are conscious of or aware of, we have things that we associate with that trait. So for example, if I talk to you about anger, everybody has a different understanding of what anger means. But it may not be the accurate one. We may all be having a certain vision of what an angry person looks like, and it may not be the accurate definition of what anger is. Now, why is it so important to define the trait? Because if we don't know the root of a trait, if we don't know the root of a midah, there's no way we can work on it. There's no way we can tackle it or perfect that trait. So in the process of working on our midot, on our traits, each one, what we're going to need to do is, number one, definition. Okay, we have to define it. What is that trait? Once we define that trait, then we're going to take the different steps to identify where we stand with that trait, and then we're going to have to take a step of the next step of how are we going to fix it. Okay? So if you look at your sheet, your Midah worksheet, anybody out there who wants to join our class on Facebook, if you want to get this file, please email me, Aryeh, Wolbe@torchweb.org, and I'll happily send it to you. Anybody here in the class as well, you're welcome to email me, and I'll send you this little worksheet. You can make your own worksheet. So I'll tell you again, let's go through it. Number one is define this midah, this trait, in your own words. All right? We're going to talk about it. Okay, in every class. Then you have to do an introspection. Where do you actually stand with this trait? Right? Now, you may think that you're perfect in that trait. That's great. Hopefully you are. But some of us may not be. So if we're not perfect, where do we want to get to? Where do we want to get to? Okay? And that's going to be part 3, which is our avodah, our practical work on this trait, divided into 2 different parts. What would I like to accomplish with this work on this midah? And number 2, what tools do you currently possess that can be immediately employed to help affect a small measure of change in this midah? We all have qualities, we all have tools ready in our hands that we could already employ to perfect that specific trait that we're discussing. So we have to really think, how can we employ that trait to put it already into action? Okay, and then number 4 is we're going to take an acceptance upon ourselves. We're going to accept, it's called a Kabbalah. Now, not the Kabbalah of mysticism, but a different Kabbalah, which is accepting upon ourselves practical change. Okay? And that is the key to all of Mussar. Change, as we said in the introduction, there are 4 classes we spoke about the introduction to Mussar, and the most important part is it's not about becoming so much better and holier. Change. If you can change one trait, you've changed the entire world. That's our goal. Our goal is to change, and that's what if hopefully God should bless us. I'm going to give us all a blessing here. Okay. God should help us that through this learning every Monday night at 7:30, we should all be brought to a different place in our being through change. Amen. Amen. Okay, our first trait, the first trait we're going to talk about, the trait we're talking about this week, is the trait of kindness. Now, we all have an image in our mind, what is kindness? What is kindness? Right? So anybody here have an idea what kindness is? Ed, what's kindness?
Being nice to other people.
Being nice to other people.
Understanding people's different views.
Okay, different views, understanding different views. Anybody else have an opinion on kindness? Pascal?
Giving.
Giving. Okay, giving.
Putting other people's needs before you.
Putting other people's needs before you. Compassionate.
Selfless.
Selfless. They're all perfect answers. Right? But you realize that there's one problem. What's the one problem? Everyone said something different. So that means everybody, if we would just typically start working on this trait, say, you know what? Let's all work on our kindness. What's going to be the problem? Everybody's going to be working on something else because everybody understands this trait in a different way. Okay, so let's first talk about the meaning of Chesed. The meaning of Chesed means kindness. True kindness is to do what the other person needs. This is a summary already, right? Is to do what the other person needs and is lacking, and not what we want to do. You see, what many people think is kindness is this is what I'm ready to do, so this is my kindness. But that's not what the Torah tells us is kindness. What does the Torah tell us is kindness? The Torah tells us, you want to do what's kind? Find out what they're missing. Find out what they're lacking. You find out what they're lacking, now you know how to help them. The problem is that many times when we talk about kindness, we're only thinking about what we're willing to do. But that's not true kindness. Now, it does not mean that we're actually going to fulfill everything they need. Everything that they're lacking. But at least we can get to the point where we understand what they're lacking. So I'll give you an example. If you drive in Houston, which I'm sure many of you do, you'll notice that there are people at the street corners that have signs. I actually saw this smarty guy. He says, "If you don't give me money, I'm voting for Trump." That's what it said. Right under. You saw that guy also, right? Right.
Nobody better give money.
And of course, you have other people who say, "Well, I'll be honest. I need money for my beer." Right? Or they have all these smart things. Okay, but the bottom line is that there are people who are in need. And the question is, how are we going to help those people in need? So what do we typically do? Well, I don't want to deal with it. Or, I have a friend actually, every day he takes a banana and some type of snack, pretzels or something, and he gives it to them every day. Every day he brings them that. That's what he's willing to do. Now, it's not saying that that's not kindness. The question is that the highest level of kindness? Is that what the Torah wants us to do with kindness? The Torah tells us something very interesting. It says in Deuteronomy that a person, when he does kindness, should do de machsoro. What is de machsoro? Like we said earlier. According to their lackings. So Rashi explains a tremendous idea. Let's say this guy that comes to us to ask for charity was a very, very successful businessman, had a big company, many employees, had a chauffeur, many servants, paid everyone very nicely, took care of his people, everybody loved him, and now he went bankrupt. And now he doesn't even have food to put on his table, to feed his family. He sold his car. He sold his fancy mansion. And now he's living in a rental apartment and is taking the metro. Right? Can you imagine the pain that this person endures every day? Every day he endures tremendous pain. So what is our obligation to him? What is our obligation?
To give him a job if he needs one.
To give him a job if he needs one?
To help him recover the status where he was getting.
Oh, that's what Rashi says. Rashi says, you know what your job is? First job. First, understand where he's coming from. Understand where he was. If you don't understand where he was, you'll never be able to help him. And you know what? He may need you just to come out of your car and say, you know something, I remember those days. I remember what a great person you are. It pains me to see you like this. Right? Just to give him that word is already fulfilling part of that mitzvah. Because you understand. Did you give him money? You didn't give him anything. But you gave him encouragement. You gave him love. You gave him care. You gave him concern. You gave him compassion. Yes?
But would it be incorrect to ask someone like that what you could do to help them?
Yes.
It would be incorrect?
Yeah, no, it would not be incorrect. It would be
It would be
correct. It
correct.
would be the right thing. Yes, absolutely. If you can ask them, if they're willing to tell you, if you know.
But it's not the wrong thing
How
to
can-
ask in a case. You know,
Again, so you have to know
because you don't
every
wanna make
situation
somebody
is
feel
different.
embarrassed. Okay.
Every situation is different, and you have to be careful with how you deal with that. Okay.
Yeah.
But the overall idea that we're going to get into this in more details. Emulating God. Just as the Almighty is compassionate, you should be compassionate. Just as the Almighty is called gracious, you should be gracious. You should be kind, just like God is kind. Now, similarly, you should emulate the attributes of God. Just as He clothes the naked, so should you. Just as He visits the sick, so should you. Just as He consoles the bereaved, so should you. So our goal of kindness many times is, what do I need to do to quiet my conscience? What do I need to do? I just don't want to deal with these issues. I don't want to deal with this conscience. I don't want to deal with all this headache. Just leave me alone. What is it going to take? $10? Take $10 and go. But that's not what it's about. It's about being God-like. It's about emulating God. So how does God do kindness? God doesn't say, you know what? You have a problem, here's a solution, goodbye. He understands the whole story, the whole background, the whole history. So when you see that person at the street corner, and it says a veteran, can you imagine he's limping? Can you imagine he came back from war? And go through that, feel for a second what that person is going through. Now it's a different type of kindness. You may still only be able to give them that banana and that pretzels. But it's a different type of kindness. Because you understand that person. If we need, just to understand this a little bit more, you know,
Well, excuse me.
yeah.
Isn't that similar to the phrase, I'm sure, well, many people have heard it. It's like, if a person wants food and somebody says, okay, give him fish. But if you teach him how to fish, then he has food not just for that day.
Right, so we'll see that. We'll see that. Better than giving someone fish, teach him how to fish so that he can. We're going to talk about that. And Maimonides says the greatest form of charity is is exactly that. Is teaching them a trade or getting them a job, right? And that's for sure. We'll get to that in a minute. But right now we're many steps before that. We want to get into the mind of the person who's suffering. Suffering doesn't mean they're sitting at a street corner. Suffering doesn't mean they're in a hospital. Right? A spouse doesn't necessarily need to be crying with bitter tears to be suffering. Right? They just want to be understood. Right? You know, there's a big challenge with people in a long-standing relationship. Generally speaking, that means married. Is that the wife says, my husband doesn't give me any attention. He doesn't give me enough attention. Why doesn't he give you enough attention? You talk to the man. He says, "What do you mean I don't give you enough attention? I'm gonna give you. What are you talking about? Do you remember we go here, we go there? Yeah, but you don't understand me. You don't understand me. What are you talking about? I don't understand you. You told me about this. You told me about this. You told me about this. You told me about that. And I told you how to solve all those problems. But that's not what she asked for. She didn't ask for solutions. When she complained about her boss, she wants you to be there with her. Understand her challenge. Don't say, well, just quit the job. Well, she didn't think about that herself. right? She needed the genius to tell her,
Yeah.
right,
Right.
how to solve that problem. But what did she need? She just wants you to be there with her.
Just don't
Listen
listen.
and have compassion. Feel my situation. You're not going to be able to solve it. You're not my boss. You're not there with me. But at least understand what I'm going through. Be there with me. That is step one of kindness. Understand the person's situation. When you understand their situation, it's very, very different than just, I'm trying to find a solution. They have a problem. They're hungry. I'm going to give them the food. No. We don't have to give them the food. First step, understand where they are.
But if you understand it and you don't do anything about it, is that really kindness?
1 second. It doesn't necessarily mean, because you understand their problem does not necessarily mean
It doesn't mean kindness.
that you're going to be able to fulfill it. Look, what does Rashi say? I didn't finish the Rashi. Rashi says, so if this was a wealthy person who used to have chariots riding in front of him and slaves running in front of the chariots, try to fulfill his original status. Now, that doesn't mean that if it's a limited resource of charity that you have to spend the money on that. But it means at least know what he's lacking.
But you have to react to that.
Yeah, but you know what? I can't afford to buy him a Bentley and have slaves for him. I can't afford that. And I'm not obligated to fulfill that. But I am obligated to at least understand where he's coming from.
But how does that translate into action then?
Wait, we didn't get to action yet. You guys are like the husband trying to find solutions.
So you need to have empathy rather than just sympathy.
Yeah.
Correct.
Empathy, yeah.
Right? The first step, what we're trying to accomplish, step number 1, is let's be in their shoes for 1 second. Let's understand what's going on in their life.
Connect with the person.
Connect with them. All right? Now, here's what to me is, I think, a chidush. A chidush is a novel idea. Even if you're not able to help them, they're in a different country. Or I don't have the money, I don't have anything. But you know what I could do? I can cry for them. I can feel their pain. Let me give you an example, okay? So we know that we have terrific soldiers in the IDF. We know that we also have terrific soldiers in the United States military. And God forbid we hear of a catastrophe, something that happens. There's an explosion in Israel, and God forbid someone passes away from the explosion. And, many times we look at it as a statistic. Well, guess what? There's 34 terrorist attacks in Israel. It was a roadside bomb. In Mosul, in Iraq. So what does it have to do with me? I'm here in Houston, Texas. Leave me alone. You imagine that person has a family, many times married, many times with children, many times with parents who are alive, sometimes even grandparents who are alive, siblings, that will never see that person again. Do you realize how joyous it is for you to hear your child's voice, or your sibling's voice, or your parent's voice on the other end of a telephone? And if, God forbid, someone weren't able to hear that again? Right? And you know what? I'm here in Houston. They're in Iraq, where the parents are from Long Island or from wherever, and there's nothing I can do for them. If I send them a postcard, they probably won't ever get it. If I send them an email, who can even get their email? What can I do for them? There's nothing I can do for them. Can I cry for them? Can I feel their pain? That in itself, even though there's no tangible benefit, is kindness. There's no tangible benefit. What did you do for them? Nothing. You did. You were there with them. You felt their pain. You experienced their loss with them. That's already a whole different story. Right? Now, you're right. You didn't do anything tangible. But their pain is your pain. That is kindness. If someone lives like that, imagine someone living like that. I'll tell you a true story. True story. I mentioned this recently in one of the classes. I think it might have been in the intro classes. Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz, the great mirror, the mashgiach, the spiritual leader in the yeshiva in Mir in Poland, on Shabbos would have a glow. A glow. And when my grandfather came to the yeshiva during the week, he saw this rabbi, the head of the yeshiva, and he saw him. He introduced himself, and he spoke to him for a few minutes. The next day came Shabbos, and he saw where the rabbi sat. It came Shabbos, and he sees someone else is sitting in the rabbi's seat. So he told the other students, he says, maybe we should move that person from the rabbi's seat. The rabbi's going to walk in any minute. Someone's sitting in his seat. He said, no, that's the rabbi. He said, what do you mean that's the rabbi? It's a different person. He says, no, that's him. On Shabbos, he looked different. He had a glow. He had just a shine from his face. It says, by the way, where the myth comes from that Jews have horns? It's because it says that Moshe, when he came down from the mountain, right, his face was glowing, right? And if you take the word glowing and the word of a horn, it's the same word in Hebrew. It's the same letters. So if you just don't know how to read it properly, with enough ignorance, it says, and his head was glowing. Right? His head had horns, sorry. Instead of his head was glowing, his head had horns. That's why Jews have horns. That's why we cover it with the kippah. But either way, so the rabbi, his face was glowing on Shabbos. One Shabbos, the rabbi's face looked like he was dead. Absolutely dead. So they inquired, what's happening? What's happening? She says right before Shabbos he had found out that there was a terrible, terrible Jew who lived in Germany, a self-hating Jew who did terrible things to the Jewish people, and that he had passed away. The students are looking. So what's the problem? Right? Good riddance. Right? The bad guy is off the streets. Right? What do you care? He says, no. He's my brother. Not his real brother. But the Jewish people are brothers. He's my brother. And he's standing right now in judgment in front of the heavenly courts. And what is he going to say for himself? He has nothing to say for himself. And it's not going to bother me? That's true kindness. Is there anything he can do for him? There's nothing he can do for him. Can feel his pain. Feel someone else's pain. Feel someone else's joy. Someone else has a simcha, a celebration. Their daughter got engaged. They had a baby. They got engaged. Right? They had making a wedding. All right, what are we buying them? What do we need to do? How do we punch the ticket? We come, we go, goodbye. Right? Stop for a second and feel their joy. Celebrate with them. That's true kindness. Forget the gift. It's about being with someone else. That's true kindness. True kindness, we always think of it as an action. I do an act of kindness. No, that's not what it's about. Today we're going to learn something different.
Rabbi,
It's not an act of kindness. It's living with kindness. Yes?
I think it's a lot easier for people to find joy. It's a lot easier to, the baby's born, or you're going to a wedding, than it is to feel people's pain. And I think that the kindness would be easier to feel joy than it is to feel somebody's pain. And I think that's the perfection we need to do, is try to learn how.
So
find
I'm
other people's
I'm not
pain.
so sure. I'm not so sure about that. You may be right, but I'm not so sure about it. To feel, the issue is not joy or sadness. The issue is really being there with someone else.
A state of
To
mind.
really, yeah, you got to really break off all of the shells and actually get into that person's situation. Imagine, wow, how much stress they're going through, how much challenge they've been facing, and here they have a simcha. They're so happy, right? Be there with them in that simcha. Be there with them in that joy. Yes.
That seems to be like a mechanism of bringing Hashem's name to be one, because then it's no boundary between my brother and me. We are one.
So you're saying a very good point. We're going to get there soon, okay? Very, very good point. Is that all traits, if you bring it back to its original source, will all lead us back to one fundamental principle in Judaism: belief in Hashem. If we understand that we are all subjects of the Almighty, okay, so the Almighty is the creator of heaven and earth. He's the creator of every human being. He gives us life. He gives us everything we have. So then let's talk about the trait of arrogance. How can I be arrogant over someone else? We're all creations of Hashem. We all have the same master. Oh, I'm wealthier than someone else. I'm going to be prouder. What do you have to be proud of? God gave it to you. And God could take it in 20 minutes or in 5 minutes, right? It's like anything that we have. Okay, that's arrogance. Happiness, right? Hashem gave me everything I need because He's a just God. And a just God gives you exactly what you need. So I'm going to be unhappy? Hashem gave me what He thought was right. This is what He thinks in His divine wisdom, better than me, better than anyone else. He knows what's best for us. Okay?
Sorry, just one point. Given that there is an abundance of misery and unhappiness on this planet, and more than any one person can hope to address, where does prayer come into kindness? In other words, we're talking about, we've come across somebody who has significant misfortune. How would praying for them?
Absolutely.
Or is that a cheap fix?
There's no cheap fixes. There's no cheap fixes. There's nothing which is I'm sorry here, everybody on Facebook Live. I'll be bouncing around for a second. Can you please get an extension cord?
Of course.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're paying for it.
We're out of power here.
That
So-
guy who had the chauffeur and
Right.
and so forth. I mean, there's very little we're going to be able to realistically do for him. Perhaps Saturday morning they just devote 15 seconds, 30
Of
seconds
prayer.
to
Of
it.
prayer. Yes. So we yes. Again, the way in which we're going to fulfill this kindness is not the subject now. That you're going to fill out in your own Mida worksheet, and you're going to figure out on pages on the second side, you'll be able to journal all of the different ways in which you were inspired, and it's not long enough. Right, but there's a long one in one of the boxes over there, I'm sorry. Not gonna reach. So we have many different ways in which we can actually put it into practice. All right, the practical application is going to be, we're going to talk about later. Okay? Right now, let's just talk about the concept. Let's get into that frame of mind of understanding the pain or the joy or the needs or the anything else that someone else is experiencing. That's what we want to get into. Okay? And once we do that, then it'll be a breeze to figure out the rest. All right? Excellent.
All right, so, Rabbi,
Yes.
quick question then. Okay, for example, the guy that was wealthy and then everything fell apart. He's, like you say, has a cheap apartment and has barely enough to keep food and everything. So, isn't that kind of like, okay, maybe it was the guy's fault for being over generous or something, but at the same time, if God gives us what we need at whatever, at parts of our life, then how can that have changed his life so drastically? If
Again, the point, you're focused on solutions. Let's not focus on solutions. Well, let's focus on what the process here of getting to kindness is. It's a frame of mind that we need to have to understand someone else is lacking. Okay, let's move on. What is chesed? So we said chesed, every word in the Hebrew language, we spoke about the same thing in the second class of Introduction to Mussar. We spoke about how the Hebrew language is not like any other language. In English, table means table. Why? Because it's just a construction of consonants and vowels. We put them together, and now we have a word which we all collectively understand means table. Something you can place things on. Right? Okay, we understand? Chair, same thing. But it doesn't, CH doesn't mean anything, right? And A doesn't mean anything, and I and R, they don't mean anything. But in Hebrew it does. Every single word in the Hebrew language is not just an assembly of letters and vowels. Each word in the Hebrew language is fundamental by the core, by the root of its letters. Which is an opportunity for me to mention that next Monday night, we're going to be learning with a great rabbi coming in from Israel, the mystical meanings of the alphabet, of the Hebrew letters. And it'll blow your mind. It'll absolutely blow your mind to learn about the letters of the Hebrew alphabet and their mystical meanings behind them. It's just incredible, right? But no letter, and any time you'll see those letters, you'll suddenly see something very, very special about those letters. And the combination of those letters forms certain items. What is the word chesed? We know the word is chesed, it's kindness. But if you take the root of the word chesed, it means chas. What does it mean, chas? Chas means to be concerned. Okay? Chesed comes from the word chas, which means to be concerned. Our acts of kindness should be based on the concern for the other person's needs. We typically associate chesed to the action. I just want to do, and this is what I'm ready to do. I want to volunteer, and this is what makes me feel good. It makes me feel good to volunteer, so I'm going to... Is that true kindness? If I want to volunteer only on Tuesdays between 3 and 3:30, because that's the only time that I want to avail, and that's when it makes me feel good to do that, right? It makes me happy, right? I'm not saying not to volunteer. But is that the true kindness we're talking about? No. True kindness is finding the needs and working around those needs for the individual, for the organization, for the person, for whoever it is, for the community. So it's identifying the needs of the other and molding ourselves to their needs. The world stands on 3 things we know. Anybody know what the 3 things the world stands on? Torah, Avoda, and Gemilut Chasadim, the first mission on ethics of our fathers. On Torah, which is the study of Torah, Avoda, which means prayer, and then kindness. Right? Torah, prayer, kindness. There's a reason we don't have to give it. We'll get into that a different time. Perhaps we'll do a series on ethics of our fathers. Maybe we'll do a lunch and learn here, and we'll discuss ethics of our fathers. I'm just doing it because the Marbins aren't here like every day for lunch and dinner, so like this they can be here. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi. Of course.
So the next is number 3. What is Chesed? The sages were looking at the destruction of the temple and were saddened by the sight of seeing the place of forgiveness in ruins. Till Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, "Worry not, we still have a way to atone for our sins." We still have a way to atone for our sins. How? Through acts of kindness. You know how we atone for sins? we're selfless. We don't do things that we want to do. We do things that other people need us to do. We're there for others. We make ourselves, because what was the purpose, what was the reason the temple was destroyed? More than baseless hatred, the root of baseless hatred is me. I only care about me. And if you don't vote like me, then I don't like you. And if you don't think like me, you're not part of the club like me, and you're not part of the membership like me, you don't go to my synagogue, you're not part of my... So then I don't like you, because you're not like me. It's all about me. Me, me, me. What is kindness? You. It's changing completely the way we see things. It's not about the me anymore. It's about the you. It's not a world which is circled around me. Oh, I want to eat. I want to drink. I want to this. I want to that. We know very well what we want. How about what someone else wants? When a guest comes to our house, right? Do they want to eat? Do they want to drink? It's funny because I once had a guest, two guests. They came from the former Soviet Union. And they came to talk about their institutions respectively. Each one of them was there to represent a different organization. They're sitting across the table from me. And I asked them, of course, if they wanted a drink. And it says that women have tremendous wisdom. Women understand their guests. The Talmud says that. They understand their guests. My wife calls me out of the room for a second. She says, offer them something to eat. They look hungry. So after I spoke to them for very briefly, I said to them, maybe you guys want something to eat? You want to eat some dinner? It was probably a week since they had a meal last. They ate, those plates were gone. All right? If they could eat the plate, they would eat the plate itself, okay? But you understand? It's more, so you're right, I can't give them a big check. But in her wisdom, my wife understood that perhaps it's much more than just the money. Perhaps they're just hungry. They need a good meal. They need a smile. And I sat with them. They ate and they enjoyed and they had more. It's like this. They were, So it's knowing where they are, understanding their pain. It reminds me of the verse in the Torah which says, "Luben shinayim michalav." In one of the blessings where Jacob is blessing his children, he's saying that the white of the teeth will come from milk. Right? Because milk is white and it has an impact on your teeth. You can ask your dentist that it has an impact and it can make your teeth white. But you want to know something? Our sages say there's a different understanding to that. It's talking about a poor person. And when a poor person comes to your house, more than they need a cup of milk, i.e. something to eat, they need to see the white of your teeth. They need to see a smile. Lubein shinayim, they need to see the whiteness of the teeth more than they need the milk. We're sometimes solution-oriented. Don't find the solution. That's not the issue. They want you to be there with them. Smile. Feel them. Understand them. Be engaged in what they're saying. Make them feel loved. Hug them. It's so much more powerful, that encouragement. You change their lives. But they came for money. And people are very, 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 business oriented. No. They're in pain. That's why they came. They're suffering. Be there with them. The Torah states, and Hashem created man in his image, in the image of God. The traits of Hashem are embedded within us, like we discussed. Each one of us here have the traits of the Almighty. It said God created you in his image. What? You're in his image? God looks like you. No. In his character traits. Now, the difference between us and God, which is why we're not God, is that God is perfect in all his traits. Perfect kindness, and perfect compassion, and perfect mercy, and perfect forgiveness. We have just a little bit of it. And that's going to be part of your homework here in your Midah worksheet, is to score yourself where you are in this trait. We're starting to define a very different trait. We're going to go around the room, so we're going to ask, what is kindness? I think we're going to get different answers than we got before. Right? It's really getting into someone else's skin. What is going on in their life? Understanding the full package of what's behind it. Not just the external. What's the solution? How do I get them out of here? What do I need to do to get them back out the door? Now, I'll tell you another idea, which is a beautiful idea, which I think can help us understand the importance and significance of this trait. It says that Abraham was perfect in welcoming guests. By the way, the trait of Abraham was the trait of kindness, was Chesed. That was the trait of Abraham. And he saw God through Chesed, because he saw, look how the tree grows and feeds humanity. Look how the water satiates the soul. It's unbelievable. Why would God do that? Because he loves us. So he gives us. And he gives more, and he gives more. So we have this amazing world that God created, and he keeps on giving and giving. So Abraham says, you know what? If I want to be godlike, I have to be a giver. A giver without bounds. So what did Abraham do? He taught us how to bring guests into our home. He had a tent, and the tent had 4 doors. East, west, north, and south. And in every direction, any passerby he would see, he'd call him and come take a drink, because he lived in the desert. Come get a drink of water. Come get something to eat. And he would do acts of kindness. So our sages say that there are 3 parts of kindness when you bring someone into your home. Achila, which is giving something to drink, to eat. Shtiya, which is giving them something to drink. You give them something to eat, you give them something to drink. And then there's the lamed, which is perhaps either to give them a place to rest, or to walk them out when they leave. To walk out your guest.
How do you say the third one?
Eshel, and livia, which is to walk them out. Livia also is the same word as lavaya, right? Which is to walk a deceased, right? We have a lavaya, right? We walk them out. It means escorting them. When your guest comes to your house, you escort them out. Okay? So you have these 3 traits, which our sages tell us makes an orchard. You have the achila, you feed them, you give them to drink, and you walk them when they leave. You escort them out. Our sages tell us those 3 letters, aleph, shin, lamed. Okay? Achila, shtiya, levia. Makes an orchard. But what if you don't do the last one? If you don't walk them out? Just achila and shtiya. What are those 2 letters? Aleph, shin is esh. What is esh? Fire. God forbid, our sages say that if you don't walk them out, there could be a catastrophe of fire in that home. And you think to yourself, I don't understand, this doesn't make any sense. I go out of my way, I feed them, I give them food to eat, I give them something to drink, and now the only thing I don't do is I don't walk them out, and you're telling me my house will burn down. Really? That's craziness. How can that be? How can that be that that's the punishment for someone who just doesn't walk someone else out? So my rabbi says, no, it's a misunderstanding. Fire doesn't mean that your house is going to burn down. But perhaps fire means embarrassment. When someone's embarrassed, they turn red. Right? That's fire too. You've just burnt them. If someone comes to your house and you just give them food to eat and drink to drink. So now, if you don't walk them out, how do they feel? they feel pretty bad for themselves. Me, I need to come to someone else's house to eat. I have to come like a pauper. I have to come like, I need their favor, like I need their meal. They're embarrassed. But when the host walks them out, then what happens? The host is telling them, no, don't leave yet. I enjoy your company so much. You're doing so much for me. I don't want you to leave. So I want to stay every possible inch that as you're leaving, I want to walk with you. I want to extend your visit much longer because it means so much to me.
Because I'm so glad you came.
Exactly. So what you're doing is not only that you're making it now into an orchard for them, right? You're taking away that embarrassment. You're taking away that embarrassment and making it such a beautiful thing for them. They're like, I love that meal. Not thinking that they needed someone else's thing. I did them a favor by coming because they loved that I came. They begged me to come again. Right? They walked me all the way out. That's how much they loved my visit. Right? That is the way we're supposed to do kindness. That's in this week's Torah portion. Lech lecha. Abraham goes, he follows what God tells him to do. In the first best way, emulating God. Doing kindness the right way. Doing it as a complete act, not just as a, minor little, event. Doing it in perfection. All right? Next. So we said that like this. Now let's talk about application. Kindness is not necessarily what we do, but rather how we do it. It's not what we do, but it's how we do it. It's not the fact that you had your guest. It's how you had that guest. It's not the fact that you helped that person at the street corner, but it's how you did it. Right? You take it, you throw it out the window, close your window quickly so he doesn't come to your window, and then no eye contact, right? It's not about what you do, it's how you do it. So when we go home tonight and we're going to talk about kindness and we're going to try to emulate kindness, we're not going to say, I'm going to be a person of kindness. In that, I just do acts of kindness. No. I'm going to try to take the acts of kindness that I do and do it with more intention, with more focus, with more love, with more caring, so that when I do something for someone else, it becomes a complete act. All right? Yes. So we said about the smile, it's the way you do it, not what you do, it's how you do it. Finding someone a job, like we mentioned earlier, is greater than giving them the dinner. Right? Give them food for dinner. Feed them. Great. But you know what would be so much greater? Making them self-sufficient. Giving them dignity. So they can come home with pride that they earned their own living. That they don't need to come and beg. There's a great sage, Rabbi Dessler, and he would say an incredible thing. He would say that marriage depends on its success is defined by giving, not taking. There are givers and there are takers. In this world, we have two types of people. We have givers and takers. There are people who just know how to take. We need to learn how to be people who are just givers. Give. And Rabbi Dessler would say this under the chuppah when he would marry off a couple. He'd say, right now you want to give each other the world. But there may come a time where you may say to yourself, what's in it for me? I bring home the living. I do this and I do that and I do this and I do that. And what do I get? He says at that point your relationship is going downhill. You always have to be focused on how you are the giver. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't abusive relationships, and if there are, we can talk about it offline, or you can speak about it with a professional, right? Of course, there are situations where people are taken advantage of, even by their spouse. We're talking about in a healthy, normal circumstance. A person should feel that they're giving and receiving, but you're not doing it for the receiving. There has to be a healthy balance, of course. But if the marriage is only about what's in it for me, it may not be a marriage.
I mean, that sounds like it fits in perfectly with what Hillel said. If I'm not for me, who will be? But if I'm only for me,
And what am I?
yeah.
Right? And it's so important for us to make sure that we're always finding, how can I give? How can I do? I know a family, an entire family of many, many children that lives in Jerusalem, mostly in Jerusalem. And every single one of these individual children of this household have the most incredible trait of being givers. I mean givers like you've never seen before. I once came to one of their homes. I needed a big favor. One of them had certain connections in the Knesset and was able to help me with certain documentation that I needed. Legally, of course, right? I don't need WikiLeaks hacking my email. But you know, they were able to help me get. He's like, I feel like I came to their house. They gave me some of their time, and I asked them for a favor, and I'm like, thank you so much for your time. He says, 1 second, you're not going anywhere. He goes to his daughter. He whispers something into her ear, and she comes back from the back with a set of books, a set of Sfarim, of holy books. And he says, here, this is for you. I'm like, what do you mean? Thank you. You gave me. He says, no, thank you for giving me the opportunity to help you. Right? Because this person, and I know this person for many, many years, I've never seen him in a situation of being a taker. Only being a giver. He doesn't know how to help himself otherwise, right, in any other way. He has to be a giver. And in every situation he's evaluating, in what way can I give to this person? In what way does this person need encouragement? In what way does this guy feels terrible. He came to my house to ask me for a favor, right? And he feels like I'm going to give him something so that he can feel good about it, right? And he shouldn't feel bad about asking for the favor. I'll make him feel like he did me a favor by coming here. I mean, it's extreme.
So by taking,
But that's true.
By taking, you were giving.
Nah, but he was the giver there. Trust me. This guy was a giver like I've never seen in my life. Never seen something like this.
Wouldn't it be a merit, Rabbi?
A what? A merit?
A merit? Like, for example, in that situation, the guy or the rabbi or whoever the gentleman was had the merit where Hashem was testing him in the sense of, I know you're going to pass the test with Hesed, but you're only going to earn more points, so to speak. So that's why you have to have the actual joy.
Again, so I'm sure that he works very hard on himself on being a giver. It's not something which comes as a natural trait to everyone. It's possible that to him he's a 10 of 10 on perfection of the trait. It could be that he comes to this class, he'll mark himself. He probably, knowing him, he'll probably mark himself a 4. He's like, I need a lot of improvement, right? But I'm telling you, he's probably a 10. Of all his traits, that's probably his perfect one. But to always think about the other person, what do they need now? You meet someone, maybe they need encouragement. Maybe they need a smile. That's also kindness. You don't have to give them something tangible for that to be an act of kindness. It could just be a word of encouragement. It could be just, you know something? You're a really great guy. Right? That can make someone's week. You know, I think really highly of you. Tell me, what's your opinion about that? That can make you feel so good. Right? You learn other people. Find what they need. Right? What are they going through? They could be in a slump now. They're feeling, life is just too rough and it's too tough and I can't do it. I can't make it. Show them they can. Right? That's our job. Start looking at other people. See, identify. There's so many beautiful people around you. What do they need? Why are they down? Is something wrong? Well, maybe we can talk. You're not going to be able to. Well, you're the psychologist. You became my psychologist. No, I love you and I care about you. I'm just trying to help. I want to be there with you. I don't want you to be there alone. All right. And Another aspect of applying it is smiling to others. Smile to other people. Harat panim. When you smile to someone else, you brighten up their world. You brighten up their world. You make their life more happy. You walk into the elevator. I'm sure you've all had this experience. You walk into the elevator, you're rushing to a meeting. You walk in and you just like, or if there's news on the, sometimes they have like these things flashing on the screen and you look up and like, how do I say, good morning everybody, right? Sometimes you see everyone's put a smile on their face, right? Cheer everybody up, right? Some people could be down. Some people could be facing a lot of crazy things going on in their lives. But that guy in the elevator always smiled to me, right? Not the creepy guy, right? Learn what is missing to another. What is missing? The Chafetz Chaim teaches us that just like Torah needs to be studied every day, kindness needs to be performed every day. You need to find a way to do an act of kindness every single day. That does not mean the same routine act. That means a special, unique act. That means you stand in your office and you say to yourself, you know what? Today I'm going to pick on the secretary. And I'm going to find what does that secretary need to feel happy today. You know what? I'm going to walk over, I'm going to tell you, you know something? You do such a terrific job answering that phone. And I always take it for granted. I want you to know I appreciate it so much. And it's someone you walk by every day. Right? How are you? Everything good? Okay, great. All right, move on. Stop and pay attention. Now, I will tell you that the number one person you need to do that act of kindness with is your spouse. You guessed it. It's your spouse. Because the spouse is the person you're living with every single minute of the day. You're alive in the same house. You raise the children together. You got married 15 years ago, 20 years ago, however many years ago. And now it's just like, okay, well, she didn't do that. I can't believe there was a comedy show that was done by a young couple. It was like 2 minutes. And the wife says to her husband, that's it, I've had enough. I'm sick and tired of this. He's in the middle of watching his television. He stops. He's like, what? She says, I've had it. I'm out. I'm done. He says, what are you talking about? He says, I'm sick and tired of doing the laundry. I'm sick and tired of washing the dishes. I'm sick and tired of cleaning the floor. I'm sick and tired. I'm done. He says, I have no idea what you're talking about. He says, why don't you do what I do? He says, watch. He says, I leave the dishes here, and in the morning it's just gone. And it's clean. I leave my socks here, I leave my clothes on the floor, and by the time I come from work, it's folded in my drawer. You should try it. Look. He says, just leave the dishes here. You'll see. It just happened.
You got a good writer too.
We have to learn to be givers. We have to learn to be givers. It's not enough. It's not enough to just do things in action. We have to know, we have to feel what we're doing. What's behind what we do? What's the thought behind it? Not the thought of, I'm just trying to get rid of it, let me get it done with. I have to punch the ticket, let me say Mazel Tov and get out. But rather, let me get into their shoes. What's their joy? What can I do for them? The word noten, which means to give, is a palindrome. Anybody know what a palindrome is? A palindrome is a word that you can read backwards and forwards, like race car. Write out the word race car, and you can read it both ways. Race car, race car. Right? Yeah, you're going to do that, right? Write it out. Race car. Right?
Radar.
Right. That's right, radar.
Auto.
Dad, mom, right? So, the word Natan is a palindrome. You can read it both ways. Our sages tell us, you know why? Right? Is because when you give, what you actually get in return is far greater. You give, and it comes back to you. What does it mean, it comes back to you? The joy, the fulfillment, the energy, the blessing that comes your way is so great. A giving, if it's a real giving, always has a coming back. Again, it's not why you do it, but just know that it's there.
I was just going to say, it's very important that you don't have.
Yeah. Chesed comes from chas, like we said, feeling concern for the needs of another. And chesed begins at home. Chesed begins tonight when you go home. Think of your significant other. What can I do for them tonight? What do they need tonight? Maybe it's just a compliment. Maybe it's just a phone call, right, to a loved one in New York. Maybe it's just, you know what? I'm going to clean the house tonight, not them. Maybe I'm going to go get them a massage. I'll get them a voucher, a gift certificate. Maybe it's something so simple like putting your own dishes in the sink after dinner. But do something for someone else. Think for a second beyond yourself. Go into another person. What do they need today? And not think to yourself for a second, I just want to punch the ticket. I want to get done. Right? What can I do? And bye. Right? No. Think about it. Think about it for more than 1 minute. What can I... If you have a roommate in a dormitory, my rabbi used to say, having a difficult roommate is a segula, is an omen, a good omen for a very good marriage. You know why? If you learn to get along with a roommate who's difficult, you will learn to get along with a wife who may be difficult, or a spouse who may be difficult. All right? That is exactly the way it works. By the way, the difficult challenges that you have in your childhood, the difficult challenges that you have in other scenarios in life, in work, in wherever, sometimes they're a training ground to get you to where you need to get to. This is going to be a training. It's going to be difficult, but it's going to help you for later in life. You'll be able to overcome certain challenges. Yes?
When we talk about Chesed, we always think about others, but sometimes if you don't have Chesed to yourself,
Okay.
then you cannot really understand. If you don't have compassion on your failures, on your shortcomings, on your whatever it is that you are, you will never be able to have
For sure.
compassion on others.
For
So you have to
100%.
be-
100%. And that's, of course, you have to be wholesome within in order to be wholesome on the out. Right. You have to be wholesome within. It doesn't work like that. Just you be we have to be a wellspring that overflows from inside. Right? Not that you have what's in your cup and you keep on pouring it out and there's nothing left. Right? You fill it up inside and then it overflows to others. I have to share with you a story that's about learning how to be a giver. Learning how to be a giver requires an appetite. And not a food appetite, but you have to develop the appetite. You have to develop that love for giving. And when you develop that appetite for giving, you can give endlessly. Because you enjoy it. You enjoy overcoming it. I will tell you a personal story. When I was in yeshiva, many years ago, I was 15 years old, 23 years ago, I was in yeshiva, and I had a very bad trait. When I was doing the trait of kindness, I was doing some introspection, and I realized that I'm very selfish. I'm very selfish. You know, I was an American boy in an Israeli yeshiva, so my mother would send me, whenever I would travel back to the U.S., my mother would send me back with, American treats, American stuff, my own. So what would I do? This is my stock. I'd only go back once a year. Sometimes they would come in the middle of the year. So it's a 6-month stock minimum, right? So I have to ration it, right? So if you think about it, right? If you have 150 wafers, you got to take one a day if you want it to last, right? Think of it, right? I don't know. I don't remember what it was, but I it bothered me very, very much. And I said, you know how I'm going to overcome this? There's only one way I'm going to overcome it. I'm going to force myself to work on this trait. I'm going to force myself to give to other people. So you know what I did? I made myself a chok, a rule, a law. I set down a law for myself. Till I don't give to 2 other people, I'm not going to have any. I'm going to force myself to give. And I remember I used to stick my head out my dorm room, and I used to see 2 guys in the hallway. Instead of sneaking at myself, hey, come here. I'm like, what? Just come here a second. They'd come into my room, I'm like, here. My mother sent me with some good food from America. Please, have some. And I knew this was my gateway to getting, because if they don't take, I'm not going to have.
No ulterior motive.
Right? So they came, and they're like, wow, that's from America, right? And today it's different, because today you have everything in Israel. But it was like, wow, and they took. And one time, another time, it created such a joy for me to give, that if I wasn't giving before I had anything, I couldn't enjoy it.
I have a question.
So I want you to understand that it's not going to come day one. It's going to be like, whoa, I feel like I'm in heaven, right? Now I'm giving and the whole world changed to me. It's not going to necessarily work like that. But it's an acquired taste. It will come. It comes slowly, and you're able to nurture that. The more you learn to give, the more, and you set yourself certain criteria. It changed my entire life. It changed everything about me. That one experience. Because that was a training ground for many, many different scenarios that were to come in the future years. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you're talking about giving and how good it makes you feel to give, and now...
It's not about making you feel good.
Okay.
It's not about making you feel good. It happens to be, it's a byproduct.
Yes, and you get sort of like, you want it more because it's a feeling you enjoy to give.
Right.
And I find easier to give than to receive, but isn't it important to learn how to receive so that you can benefit the other person?
Yes. So we're going to talk about that soon, about the importance of accepting so that someone else can be a giver.
Right.
So that someone else can be a giver. That's also part of the giving.
You're receiving.
Can we just go out into the hallway straight ahead? There's the thermostat, and just turn it to the left so it can be a little cooler. Just turn it. It's a nest, okay? All right, so do something selfless, just for someone else. Learn to be a giver. Gain an appetite for giving and give endlessly. Practice giving even when it makes no sense. You know why? Just so that I can practice. So I can practice giving even if there's no reason. Just so that I can practice. I can work on this a little bit better. Always look for an opportunity to give. Again, giving. You know, one of the things that's challenging is if you're ever a guest in someone else's house. We're going to talk about gratitude. And gratitude, we'll talk about this a little bit more, about how to give proper gratitude. Many times, it's difficult to give gratitude or appreciation, show our appreciation, because we feel like we're in debt. All right? We'll talk about that when we talk about gratitude. I don't want to confuse giving with gratitude. But we have to find ways to show our appreciation for things that other people do, and that's part of giving as well. So if you're a guest in someone's house, and they had a beautiful dinner for you, they served you, it was set so beautifully. So many times people say, oh, thank you for everything. Thanks for everything. Everything was delicious, right? Now, if you were standing on your feet for 9 hours, or 10 hours, or 14 hours preparing all those different foods, it's soon going to be Thanksgiving. College students, you're coming home for Thanksgiving. You're listening on Facebook, right? You're going to be home. Your mom is going to cook an unbelievable dinner. It's going to be amazing, right? You say, oh, Mom, thanks for everything. Thanks for everything. Everything? Really? Do you know what everything means? What is everything? That I went out to prepare a menu, and then I went to shop it, and then they didn't have it in that store. I had to go find it in a different store, and then they didn't have this ingredient. Then I had to go shop that and do this, and then I had to cook, and it didn't taste right, so I had to do another one, right? Whatever it is. All of the work that went in, and all of the different things, thanks for everything. I mean, I just like got rid of my conscience. Right? I'm good. Thanks for everything. So gratitude, we'll see, is much more than just thanks for everything. It's really getting down into the core of what is the other person's giving and appreciating what that is. Get out of your own comfort zone. Break your selfish habits. We all love ourselves. There's not a human who, at least we should. A healthy person loves themselves. Sometimes it becomes unhealthy if we love ourselves too much. But a healthy person loves themselves. Right? Why? You're hungry, you feed yourself. You're thirsty, you give yourself something to drink. You're tired, you go to sleep. You need the bathroom, you go to the bathroom. We know very well what we need. What's about someone else? Can we sense when they're hungry? Can we sense when they're poor? Can we sense when they're needy? Can we sense when they're tired? Why are we just looking at ourselves and I know what I need? I'll get myself a drink if I'm thirsty. But it didn't even occur to me that someone else should be thirsty. So that means we have to change the lens. Instead of looking in, look out. What do they need? What do the people around me need? I understand that soon the people around me need to go home. I can continue the whole night. So, teach your children to give. One of the things I love to do with my children is that when we have people come to our home to collect money for organizations from Israel or from other places, and they come, they sit down with me, I give my children the money to give to them. I want them to learn to give. There's a family in Canada, a famous family. They used to give, a very, very philanthropic family. And one of the children once said that his father, when he was young, had people coming all the time to give hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was a very, 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 giving family, very giving, and they gave a tremendous amount of tzedakah. With his young child, at a very young age, the father made him come into the room to sit down with the rabbi who was asking for charity, and he made the son write the check out for $100,000. So the son is like, why do I need to write it? He says, because one day I'm not going to be here to give it, and I want you to know how to give that kind of money. I want you to learn how to give such things. And if I don't teach you how to write it, you'll never be able to give it. So practice writing it. And I think that that's an amazing thing for someone to teach their child. It doesn't have to be, it could be, you know what? When you're standing at the street corner, instead of you giving the fruit to the homeless person, give it to your child in the backseat. Have them give it. Let them learn to use their hands to give to other people. Yes?
Isn't the intent of giving important as well? If you're giving somebody something and you expect something in return, is that really giving?
No, you don't want anything in return. Okay,
There has to be an intent to give.
The intent is to give. You don't want anything in return. You don't even want a tax refund. You want a tax write-off. Okay, that's not the idea. The idea is thinking about the other person, getting into what their needs are. Right? So we've got to teach it to our children. We've got to get out of our own comfort zone. Find a way to get your children involved in being givers, not takers. You see, a child from day one is a taker. A child is such a selfish person that the whole house could be sleeping, quiet, and guess what? It's 2 o'clock in the morning. This little baby doesn't care. He's hungry, and he's going to make sure everybody knows about it. And he's going to yell and scream and kick and do whatever he can do till he gets what he wants. At what point does that change? If the parent doesn't teach that child that we need to be givers rather than takers, the child will never be able to change that habit. Get our children involved in changing those habits. A special mitzvah to loan someone money. right? It's part of giving as well. If someone comes and asks for a loan, there's a special mitzvah in the Torah to loan them the money. Yeah, there's a special mitzvah for them to return the money, by the way, right? So it's important. You don't want to throw out your money, but make sure that the person is not borrowing an amount that they can't afford to pay back. Right? It's important to know that. Don't be senseless. But there's a special mitzvah to loan someone money, and there's another mitzvah. Is that if the person can't pay it back, you're not allowed to go and demand the money back. If you know that they can't pay it, you're not allowed to go and make them feel awful that they can't pay it back. And then if you have a situation where you needed money, you came to them, they didn't lend it to you, they didn't lend you the money, then they come to you and they say, can I borrow some money? Now things are going better for you, things are going worse for them, and now they need a loan. And it's very easy for someone to say, well, you didn't lend me money, why should I lend you money? Right? Torah says not even to say that. Don't even say that. Why? Don't make your kindness into a personal spite. Right? Don't use your kindness as a weapon.
Don't keep it a scorecard.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Give without expected returns. And know that nothing you have is really yours. And you won't think much about what you're really giving away or losing. Everything you have is from God. And you think if you do good things with it, God's not going to give you more? Of course. I'll tell you an amazing story. I heard this from Rabbi Pesach Krohn. And Rabbi Krohn says an amazing, amazing story. He says like this. He says there were once two brothers. So they once came people once came to a city, and they saw two tombstones. They went to the Jewish cemetery back in Europe, and they saw two tombstones of two brothers. This brother and that brother, and it said half of the verse from Eshet Chayil on one's tomb, and half on the other. And it says these are two brothers. It says a verse from Eshet Chayil, which is for women.
Yeah, right.
And it says a half a verse on this, a half a verse on that. So they went to ask the rabbi. They said, what's going on over here? What was the verse? It said, Kappa parsa le'ani, v'yadea shilcha le'evyon. Kappa is the spoon they gave to the poor, and the hand they gave to the destitute. What does that mean? The spoon they gave to the poor, and the hand they gave to the destitute. And that's what it said on the verse, on the half the verse on this and half the verse on that brother. So the rabbi said, let me tell you an amazing thing. It's such an amazing story. He said these two brothers were very, very wealthy people. And they loved to give. Every person who came to their house, they gave so beautifully and so lovingly. And with a smile they gave. They're like, no, thank you for coming. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to give. We're so happy we can give. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving us this mitzvah. But these poor brothers, their business went and failed. And it dropped terribly. And now they couldn't afford to give the charity. But people came from faraway towns, and they didn't know. So they gave out all the money they had. And then eventually they gave out all the furniture they had. They had absolutely nothing left. Nothing left to give. And the two brothers are sitting in the house of one of theirs on the floor because they had no more chairs, no more tables. They gave everything away already. And a poor person comes into the house. And he's begging. And the brothers don't have anything to give him. Nothing to give him. So one brother looks, he's looking all around. What can I give him? He sees there's a silver spoon in the corner on the floor. He takes the spoon and he breaks the spoon in half. And he gives the spoon to his brother so that he can give it. And then he gave the hand to the poor person. Kappa, the spoon, he gave to the poor person, which was his brother. And the hand he gave to the poor person. He gave it to his brother so his brother can have the joy of giving as well. Even in such a sorry state, the only thing he can think about is how can I make my brother happy that now he can give as well. That's true kindness. That's true giving. He doesn't understand the concept of not giving. I have to give. I once went to a friend of mine here in Houston. He called me up. He says, I have a donation for your organization. I love what you guys are doing. I have a donation for you. So I'd say, thank you so much. I come and I pick up the check and I give him a hug and a kiss. I say, thank you, thank you. He said, no, don't thank me. Don't thank me. He says, if it was my money, you wouldn't see a dime. But it's not mine. It's the Almighty's. So I'm giving you the Almighty's money. It's His money. I'm not giving you my money. I don't have any money. All I have is what God gives me. If it was mine, I wouldn't give it. Right? I know. You know what he means, okay? I know. Practice by giving charity to a cause you won't directly benefit from. Think of a charity you will never benefit from. Any charity. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. But just, and you know what? And they could be anonymously. Put $100 or $20 into their charity box. They shouldn't know where it comes from, but just give this. Even if it's not, you're not a member there. You don't go to their, you don't have children in the school. You don't have any children in the city. But learn to give and not get back. It's an important thing to learn to give and not get back. I remember I was one time in Israel. I was running for a bus. Now, if you've ever been in Israel running for a bus, you know that bus drivers don't stop. Okay? And if you run after the bus, it's Israel, and it's they don't stop. They keep on going. Right? And you're running. If you have a really nice guy in a very good mood that day, right? Then maybe. But generally speaking, they don't stop. And I was once running, and the bus starts going, and then he stops. And he's waiting. I was very far from the bus stop. I'm running, and finally I get it, I catch the bus. I tell the bus driver, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I said, you have no idea how important this was for me to get this bus, because the next bus is in 25 minutes. I'd miss my meeting. Thank you so much. He says, don't thank me. Thank that man back there. He told me I better stop because you're his son. My parents were living in Israel. We were living in New York at the time. That was not my father. So I look at that person. You know who that person was? That person was my rabbi. My rabbi, I said, thank you so much. He says, I told him, you are like my son. And he treated me like a son. He acted like a father did. And that if he was his son, he would yell and scream, stop the bus! It's my son! But that's the way he felt about his own student. And he was a person of giving. Okay. Okay, we have just a few more things and we're going to be done. So let's sit tight. Give me 5 more minutes. No problem. Okay, thank you. Be careful. Be careful. All right. So the snake enticed Chava, Eve. The serpent enticed Eve by saying, be God-like, creators of worlds. Creators of worlds. What is creators of worlds? Creators of worlds, they thought, will be creators of worlds. You'll be able to create a universe, a world. Our sages say, be God-like, creator of worlds. You know what a creator of worlds is? Chesed. Chesed creates worlds. Olam chesed yibaneh. The world is created through chesed. The world runs through chesed. You will create new worlds through chesed, through acts of kindness. They had the wrong method. Abraham, 2,000 years later, understood that. He understood. They thought they got the wrong method. Abraham was able to teach the world it only goes through kindness. The only way to be a creative world is through kindness. Any act of kindness, as small as it may be, is building worlds and creating worlds. You're creating a world for someone else. You're getting into their world. You're perfecting that world for them. You're making that world meaningful for them. You're taking them from a place of need, from a place of sorrow, from a place of concern, and bringing them to a new world because you're there with them. Don't just do it as an act. Here, take it and go. Do it out of love. Even if you can't do it, feel the love. The meaning of kindness is not the token donation to the poor at the street corner to resolve our guilt, right? That's not a token donation. Hey, I want to get you off my back. I want to clean my conscience. Here, take a quarter. Go, 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 go. Just go away from me. Don't bother me, right? That. Feel it. It's not what you do; it's how you do it. So we have to give according to their lacking. What are their needs? If a person is too embarrassed to take charity, the Torah tells us, give it to them as a loan. Sometimes someone's embarrassed. Me, I have to come ask someone else. I have to ask someone else. It's embarrassing. You know what family I come from? I have to, belittle myself and go ask someone else for a favor, for help. You know they're embarrassed to ask for help. They're embarrassed. So you know what? I'm loaning the money. It's not a gift. It's not. You don't have to. Just take it as a loan, even though you know that they're not going to pay it back. Give it to them so they think that it was just a loan. And I happen to know people like that. I know people who've given charity money to people. Tell me it's okay. It's a loan. Don't worry about it. Whatever. It's a loan because they would never take it otherwise. And I asked him, I said, do you realize you're never going to get the money? He says, I knew in advance. I just told it to them so that they'll take it. That's true kindness. According to his lacking means that there is no norm. There's no normal. Well, this is the normal thing to do. No, there's no normal anymore. When a person does an act of kindness, it's custom tailored for that individual. A compliment is also an act of kindness, by the way. But don't use the same compliment for every person. That's not for that individual. What does this individual need? To become a person of Chesed, a builder of worlds, we need to learn to see, hear, and understand what the other person may be lacking. Customize it for them. So let's go back now. I want to give you 2 minutes. I just want to leave off with our friends on Facebook, and then we'll continue here at the class. I want to tell you a couple of things first. Number one is that every week, Monday night, 7:30, right here in the Torch Center, 9427 Glenfield Court, Houston, Texas, 77096. We have our classes, Mussar Mondays, and we also have next week we have the special class, the mystical meaning of the Hebrew letters, taught by the great world-renowned lecturer Rabbi Yaakov Marcus from Jerusalem, and we'll discover the deeper meanings behind the Hebrew letters. It'll be here. It'll be actually in place of this class. We're going to all be there. So if you're part of this class, join us there. It's going to blow your mind about the letters, the Hebrew letters. And we are also, okay, that's that. We're going to let off, say everyone good night. Thank you for joining us. Join us again next week.